From accidental haunting to tragic death, some of the most talented actors have enjoyed their success that followed, but some have suffered for their art. In this 5-part miniseries, we'll be looking into some of the most infamous curses that have left an everlasting shadow over Hollywood. Warning: this episode contains images that some may find disturbing. In 1927, Todd Browning wrote and directed a silent mystery film starring the legendary Lon Chaney. To say the film is rare would be an understatement, as it hasn't been seen by anyone for 55 years. It was brought to my attention in more recent years as it was featured heavily in the third season of Whitechapel, in which an escaped murderer allegedly owned the last surviving copy of the film. London After Midnight brought with it a curse that was said to drive some that watched it to insanity. Although it was billed as a mystery film, London After Midnight had its horror elements. Enter Lon Chaney. Lon Chaney was born in 1883 and developed a talent for his own stunning and often horrifying makeup, earning him the nickname the Man with 1,000 Faces. His work included That Hunchback of Notre Dame, Fagin in a 1922 version of Oliver Twist, The Phantom of the Opera, and even playing double duty as Blind Pew and Mary in a lost 1920s version of Treasure Island. Between 1914 and 1927, Chaney had already appeared in over 70 feature films. In London After Midnight, the wealthy Sir Roger Balfour is found dead in his home with a gunshot wound ruled as self-inflicted. 5 years later, a new family living in the home are terrified by a sinister-looking man in a beaver hat with sharp teeth and a long dark cloak. As it turns out, this is Chaney's character, Inspector Burke in disguise, attempting to unravel Balfour's relatives before hypnotizing them to reenact the night he died, proving Sir Balfour was in fact murdered. Due to the disguise, Lon Chaney was present in almost every scene. The film was released on December 3rd, 1927 and received mixed reviews. On October 23rd, 1928, Robert Williams was found by police officers, face down in Hyde Park with a wound to his throat and a blood-covered razor beside him. Robert Williams was originally from North Wales but found himself in London, out of work. After he was found by police, he told them, "I did it, she'd been teasing me," and pointed to the body of Julia Magnan nearby. Williams pled insanity, specifically that Lon Chaney's character, the man in the beaver hat, had appeared to him and urged and shouted at him to kill the girl he intended to marry. Williams claimed, "The last thing I remember was Julia whistling. Then I felt as if my head were going to burst and that steam was coming out of both sides. All sorts of things came to my mind. I thought a man had me in a corner and he was pulling faces at me. He threatened and shouted at me, and that he had me where he wanted me." Robert Williams' version of events seemed to work as the jury were unable to reach a verdict. However, he was found guilty in a retrial 3 months later. The judge sentenced him to death by hanging, but Home Secretary Sir William Joynton Hicks believed Williams should be sent to serve his sentence in Broadmoor after reading the medical reports. It was 2 months later, while filming Thunder, that Lon Chaney developed pneumonia before being diagnosed with lung cancer. Chaney died of a throat hemorrhage in August the following year. Thunder would be his penultimate film, with 1930's The Unholy Three being his only talkie. Of his 157 films, 100 of them are now lost, including London After Midnight. The film was destroyed in a massive fire at MGM's vault in 1965, caused by an electrical short. The fire destroyed the last known copies of hundreds of films. Over the years, many rumours of another copy of London After Midnight have been found, but no such copy has ever come to light. In 1935, Browning remade the film himself as Mark of the Vampire, with Lionel Barrymore and the great Bela Lugosi taking on Chaney's roles. Despite having a similar, almost identical plot, this version is more Dracula and less Man in the Beaver Hat. Lugosi, of course, had already played Count Dracula in 1931's adaptation of Bram Stoker's novel, which was also directed by Todd Browning. As no actual footage of London After Midnight has survived, in 2002 TCM aired a reconstruction using production photos and the original script. Lon Chaney's son Creighton, better known by his stage name Lon Chaney Jr., went on to become something of a star himself, starring as Jesse James and Lenny in the original 1939 Of Mice and Men adaptation alongside Burgess Meredith. His breakthrough role. Chaney Jr. went on to follow in his father's footsteps with horror characters, appearing in 1941's The Wolfman and taking over Boris Karloff's role as Frankenstein's monster and Tom Tyler's role as the Mummy, both from 1942 to 1944. Chaney Jr. died of heart failure in July 1973, but much like his father, has over 100 credits to his name. Todd Browning went on to make only a dozen more films following London After Midnight, including the equally controversial Freaks in 1932. He died in 1962. In 2014, a rare poster for London After Midnight was sold at auction in Dallas, Texas for $478,000. It's the only known poster to exist of the film and the first one to appear for 87 years. The last rumoured sighting of a new copy of London After Midnight was in 2017, but of course was found to be a false lead. Next time on Hollywood Curses, a 1922 silent film that was banned for plagiarism with every copy ordered destroyed. Thankfully some survived, but was there something more sinister than plagiarism about the first ever vampire film, Nosferatu?